Here's LiveScope's Sonar and LiveScope's images from 10 years ago and see how it changed.
So I was looking through some old videos. I have some 10-year-old videos now that have LiveScope sonar and catching bass on screen and actual recording 10 years ago. It's amazing looking at it, what you can see, how advanced it was, and how little I really appreciated how much of a tool it was. I'll go through a couple LiveScope's images, two videos that show you actual targets out there seeing the fish and fish catches, and then I'll dive into a Bassmaster Open after that. My brother was in third place after day one. I made a top 10. We used LiveScope and did well in that, but I totally missed the boat on it, had no clue how powerful LiveScope was.
So let's go back to the fall of 2015. I just switched to Garmin for all my electronics, and they had this new technology called Panoptix, or what they called Live View at the time. Now here's in a lake, a shallow stump that I graphed over with down view or down scan. You can see that sitting there. And Panoptix at this time, it was a really cool tool. You could see the brush pile, and instead of trying to cast left or right of it, you could always get your cast into it. You'd actually see fish swimming around. I have it zoomed out to about 60 feet of range, so it's a decent view. And then you see I'm throwing a crankbait here. It's in the brush right now. It kind of comes through it, stop and go. And then a little bit later, throwing a bladed jig through the target, I ended up catching a fish on it. Yeah, lots changed in 10 years. You can see my son was just a little kid. He's a freshman at college now, and I was a lot thinner. Now, this is the following summer in 2016, and at this point, it kind of advanced some, would graph and find targets out deep, and then use the live scope to stay on target, throw there, and also look at the fish. So here you can see this is, side and down. You can see a school right there. I circle it, and right on the edge of the drop around some brush. And then with the live scope, instead of just kind of going around a marker buoy and blindly casting at it, at this point I was starting to use Panoptix to see the fish up there, verify there were fish, and then throw up to the area. The crazy thing is now we throw directly to individual fish, pick them off there. I don't know why I wasn't smart enough to do it. You can see them. It's out zoomed out to 70 feet now, and you can clearly see those blobs. Those are bass out there swimming around. And then I would just throw out there and drag the worm in the area, knowing that I was throwing to where the fish were. And sometimes they'd swim left or right. And then, I would just throw around them, but not throw. And I was throwing drop shots and stuff at the time, but I wouldn't throw right on them. I would just, traditionally, you just cast past the spot and drag it up to it and just fish it. Why? That's the big leap that we made now in picking individual fish off the screen. This pretty good one here. It helped me catch fish. Instead of making unproductive cast, you made productive ones. The neat thing is when I recorded this fish swimming in, how well you can see the tail and the movement of the fish. This is kind of like the current one. You can see the tail right here. You can see him swimming, the outline of the fish. And it was pretty advanced for the time. It's a pretty good view. So fast forward to the 2019 Bassmaster Open on Toledo Bend. It's cold. It's February. I'm not too excited about the prospects. Stacey King's not too excited about listening to me talk about the prospects. But there were big fronts coming through, and I was able to catch him okay. I was using Panoptix LiveScope to look at brush piles that were near docks in shallow and get my jig in them and fish it really slowly. I'm not looking at the fish, but just casting that target every time. And then later I kicked out, and again, I can see fish on top of a hard spot, and I had to throw a drop shot out there, not targeting individual fish, but just dragging it through there and able to get a decent limit on day one. So as tough as my practice was, I was pretty pleased. I was in 23rd place. I come back to the cabin though, and lo and behold, my brother has 20 pounds. He busted him. He's in third place. And he always earned the nickname Day One Dave because Dave, he kills him on day one. Tougher for him the rest of the tournament. Man, he can race out of the gates though. And talking to him, so he's not on Garmin Pro staff, but he saw mine and he was in the boat with Scott Martin, who I used to room with. He saw that Panoptix, like, dude, I got to get one. So he's fishing suspended timber out there and he sees all these dots sitting in there and he starts throwing a drop shot at them just over and over. And he said, every 30 minutes I catch a big one. And he had a flipping bite going, but man, those dots, he ended up catching big ones out there. And sure enough, 20 pounds on day one, he's right up there, right in contention. Now, this does make me laugh. He got quoted in the article that day, and we always hated throwing a Carolina rig. And anytime either of us did well in Texas, all the Texans loved throwing it. So we would always say, when asked what we caught him on, like, oh, yeah, I caught him on the Carolina rig. Figured we'd send him to places we'd never fish. So day two got canceled, big winds, and it was pretty windy on day three. I was able to grind him out again, that shallow flipping bite, and then saved, a couple good ones out deep with the drop shot. The wind was tough for my brother that day, and he could have caught a limit up shallow, but he really knew he had a shot to win. He was only in it to win, not really to qualify for points. So he kept on throwing at those dots like the day before and just couldn't get him triggered and kind of went down in flames. But I left the tournament, anytime you can beat Swindle and Polnick and Cox, and most importantly, got ahead of my brother, I'm pleased with Panoptix and like, wow, it's so powerful. It's able to help me cast, and I know there's fish up there, but neither my brother nor I nor any of us really at the time realized how incredibly powerful. And if I'd gone everywhere like the Drew Gills of the world are doing now, targeting individual fish, I mean, I could have been winning tournaments and placing top tens consistently back then, but none of us really figured it out. Looking at it now, it seems so obvious and makes me sick to my stomach. But live and learn. Maybe the next time I'll embrace technology instead of try to fight it.